I'm a loving person. Like, I have a lot of space in my heart, like in the room, just to be loving to everybody, and that's a beautiful thing, and it's a strength, and it's not a weakness, you know. And I shouldn't let these situations take that away from me, or to taint that experience of myself of being this kind of person.
Welcome to the Facing Love podcast. This is Nuna speaking.
And this is Jordi, and we are here to open up conversations about the lessons and importance of difficult emotional states,
How to navigate through them with more awareness and compassion,
and to bridge the gap created by the illusion of separation.
Let's get into this while we're nice and triggered. Now that we're nice and triggered and ready, such an important topic, because I think it's definitely something that every single person of us struggles with. And like I said, we were already talking, it's something that will help really break the cycle, because it's a pure cycle.
And we'll try to talk about this without breaking any furniture. I'll try not to throw the table away as we're talking about this.
So, what is the topic of today, Jordi?
Today we're going to talk about the experience of being betrayed, or feeling betrayed or disappointed by someone, especially if you care about them, you know, someone that you love. And having compassion, even in the aftermath of this experience. Compassion for the other person and compassion for yourself, and just the whole dynamic that you're all in. And we're both triggered. Both of us are having our own separate things happening in the now. In regards to this conversation,
The one good thing is that I'm aware. It's really cool. I think the more you cultivate awareness, it really helps, because it's like I am sitting here and I'm seeing myself, the triggered, the everything, and I'm looking at it and I'm like, I see you. I know how hard this. And then this Nunilda sitting here is like, wait a minute, you don't have the full story. Wait a minute. Wait just one moment. And the full story is the one with compassion.
Yeah, that's true. I like that. You don't have the full story, because that's true. I think, when we're in the midst of these feelings, you know, it gets very one-sided, and we create a lot of meaning around it that just inflates it, and it's usually not the correct analysis of the whole picture, but it's still painful, you know. It's still painful to feel like you've been hurt by someone, you've been betrayed by someone, or disappointed, and all of that. It's a rough ride. Yeah.
There's a big difference also if the betrayal is one time. It could be really big, depending. It could be a really big betrayal. But there is definitely a difference between a betrayal that happened once and it's big, and then there's a difference when it's like continuous, like again, and then again, and then again, and then again, because that builds up, and that creates deeper trust issues, I would say. So it makes it harder. It makes it harder to bring even the idea of compassion to the table, because it's like, you're just repeating, you know, I'm just repeatedly disappointed here. Like, how can I even for a moment think about being compassionate to you, because I'm constantly being burnt here, you know.
Exactly. The reason we even started this whole thing, I'll quickly touch upon it, is because we were both sort of comparing it to the situation of feeling betrayed by men we've been with, and having it happen again and again, not just in the realm of with the same person, but with different men throughout our lives, and then it becoming this pattern, and then it then creating this distrust within ourselves to like men outside of that whole dynamic who haven't for instance like they don't know us, they haven't heard us, or even like genuine guys in our life. Like I noticed that, and I feel really shit about it sometimes, and I don't want this conversation to then go in that direction of like, oh man, fuck men, blah 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 blah, because no, that's not the reality of things. Because also anybody like this, anybody can hurt anybody, but for us, we were talking about how we've noticed this pattern in regards to specifically men, like even you can trail it back to our relationship with our fathers. And I just feel really crappy that there's now this wall that I have built up within myself of distrust to my environment. Yeah.
Because it stops you from having healthy, loving relationships with that gender, the whole gender.
Yeah,
because,
the whole gender.
The whole gender, because it's you are, you know, you put, because if it's like, oh my god, so tricky. It's sad. It's sad. I don't want to be like this. I really don't want to meet a guy and be like, man, I'm suspicious of you because, you know, from my experience.
Trust no one.
You know, yeah. It's a really sad thing. And yeah, it's sad that it becomes this whole, and it's the same, I think it's the same with men. They probably have the same feelings and trust issues with women, you know.
With women.
It's really, there's this big gender thing. But it's so sad because like when, and I think, this is how our conversation, this is how we realized that the answer would be compassion, because to stop that cycle, to finally say, okay, let me meet someone new and let me not, you know, immediately classify them as, oh, you're just going to disappoint me like everyone else has, you know. To not do that, it takes this compassion and this openness. You're having your heart open up, like, show me who you are. I'm going to sit here and I'm going to watch you show me who you are. And when you do show me who you are, I will make a decision if you are disappointed with it or not.
Instead of assuming, you know. Yeah. But it's so hard because then you're the one choosing to break that cycle, because it's like a cycle of trauma, right? Traumatized people. The trauma, it's infectious, and choosing to be the one like, okay, no, because in the moment, like for me, personally, like the people who've hurt me, it's very hard to go from like, fuck you, like you deserve to burn in hell, you know, to like, okay, that's your shit, I wish you well, bye, you know, because even just that comes from such a place of strength, you know, where you're choosing, okay, I'm not gonna place my energy on this too much because it's not helpful for either of us, and I'm gonna wish you well and move on. That's a strong place of forgiving, but also of like, so like trying to be self-aware and not fan the flames of this whole drama, you know. But it's very difficult. It's very freaking difficult, especially if the person that you're trying to do that with is still like poking at you and still like trying to do this whole dance with you and hurting you, and you know, like how do you do that?
If it's when the person in front of you is continuing to disappoint you, they're continuing to treat you in a way where it hurts you and you feel this betrayal, then in that moment, where do you find the compassion? Because you're in the middle of the situation. Mm-hmm. So it's very natural for us, when someone is hurting you, in the moment you want to either protect yourself or fight.
Yeah.
You know, so fight would be hurt back.
Yeah.
Protect would be to just, like, you can't hurt me anymore. It's very hard to make this decision of, okay, I see you're hurting me.
Yeah.
And I understand why you're doing it. And and I will not either fight you, but I will protect myself in a way where I will just remove myself from this situation, but with this compassion of, I understand. I get it. Oh man, like I feel like enlightened because I did it. I managed actually to do it a couple of times lately, and I felt like the Buddha. I was like, I am Jesus. Tell me my other chick. I don't know.
Love thy neighbor.
No. Yes, this
Oh my gosh.
it's
Because you really have to dig deep within yourself and also see the full painting of the situation and not just from your own perspective, you know, because when we are hurt, it's very, you know, the automatic thing is to go into the role of the victim, see the other person as the villain, and not see the actual core of what's happening. And I think that perspective comes with a lot of, what's the word, depersonalization, like not taking it personally. Like obviously you're still taking it personally, but somehow at the same time having an objective view and realizing, okay, this
is what's happening.
This is what's happening, you know, with me and with them, and it's created this whole thing. And it's not for me to now wish harm upon them, to now recreate this whole thing again and again, which is very tempting. But just removing yourself because the situation is not healthy and not compatible with you and your well-being. And that's it.
I had a question.
Yeah.
Because when we say compassion, I want us to really clarify what we mean when we say being compassionate towards someone after betrayal. Because a lot of people might think, okay, compassionate would mean to be like, hey, like continue talking to them, or I don't know, like still interacting with them and really asking them, let's say, oh, what can I do to help, for example. I don't know, whatever compassion can mean many things. And I want to clarify what we mean when we say compassion after some sort of betrayal. And I would ask you first, what does compassion mean?
To me, compassion is being able to look at life to the eyes of another person, be able to do that, to have empathy, to put yourself in the shoes of another, you know, to see, okay, if I was in their shoes out of my life, how I would do the same thing, or how I would be feeling the same way, or not to justify it necessarily, especially if it's a very harmful thing, but just to understand, you know. I think these, like, having compassion in really sharp moments, like especially with people that we consider bad people, looking at ourselves in, okay, how do I have that within myself as well, you know? How do I have the capacity to do this as well? Like, where in my life have I caused harm before, or can see that I would, or yeah, just putting yourself out of your own identity and seeing how you can be everything as well. And it gives you a bit more understanding of another person, because then you'll be able to more see yourself in another person. And I think that's where compassion comes from. But it's very, very difficult, especially in these moments, and takes a lot of, like, you know, like, reeling yourself back in, and trying to stop yourself from reacting first before observing the situation. Yeah, so compassion is this layered thing, but basically it's that. I see it as being able to empathize and understand another person's point of view that's not yours. Yeah. What do you think it is?
I agree with everything you said in the way of compassion, empathy, like this.
Mm-hmm.
I think for me, I don't know if it's true or not, but the way that I thought of compassion in this scenario of, like, in a scenario if there was a betrayal or a constant disappointment, compassion also would be to still have the ability to look at this person with love. Like, still have love for them. As in, to look at them and be like, okay, they're a human being and I have love for them.
Yeah.
They've hurt me horribly. Yeah. They've hurt me so bad, whatever they've done, horrible, whatever they've done. but there is still love. I still have love for them in my heart, and I will not shut that or completely take them out, because then it would also be a little bit of a lie. Because betrayal means that anyway they were in the first place within you, like they were in your heart, you know, like you cared about this person, you loved them, and that's why betrayal, like you classify it as betrayal, because it means that you gave a shit basically. Otherwise it would be like, yeah, okay, I don't care about this guy, whatever, or this girl. So they were in your heart to begin with. Let's say they had a place in your heart. And betrayal is interesting, because what happens, I think, is like we're like, okay, fuck off. Like I take you and I throw you away. You are horrible, you did this, you suck, you know, like don't fucking talk to me, well, I have so much hate suddenly towards you. Like I'm angry, I hate you, I'm disappointed, I'm sad, I'm all of these things. And having compassion would mean to be honest with yourself and say that there's still, even though I'm deeply hurt by them and I don't agree with what they've done and all these things, they're still in my heart.
Yeah.
Because it's not that easy to, let's say, remove someone.
Yeah.
And to not block that love that was once directed to them.
Yeah.
But to just change, to transform it into a more distant love, for example. Or to transform this love to suit the current state of affairs, right? So if there was a betrayal, if there was like something horrible happened, then that love cannot stay the same. Because if it stays the same, then you are putting yourself in an abusive situation where you continue giving this love as it was to this person, let's say.
Yeah.
And they either, if it was one-time betrayal, it might be different. This is why I also pointed out, because if it's a one-time betrayal, maybe you actually recover from the betrayal and then you continue the love as it was. And then, I don't know, that's like it's a risk you're willing to take to try again with someone, I don't know, keep the relationship. But if it was a continuous kind of betrayal,
yeah,
if you continue to give the same type of love and the disappointment continues, then you find yourself in this abusive situation.
Yeah.
So compassion would be to keep the love, but make sure that it transforms. But just also admit that, yeah, like I loved this person once and probably will love them still, and I have them in my heart, in my thoughts, whatever. Any kind of relationship, not only romantic, like.
Yeah. And to know that that's a beautiful thing. And I have to remind myself of that. Yeah, because sometimes I can get mad at myself, which is unfortunate, you know, for showing love to someone and it not being reciprocated in that way, like it being then turned into this dynamic of the betrayal. And then I feel bad, like why did I even try, you know, like why did I exert all that, I guess, energy and effort? And then I have to remind myself, like no, like I'm a loving person, like I have a lot of space in my heart, like in the room, just to be loving to everybody, and that's a beautiful thing, and it's a strength, and it's not a weakness. I have to remember, it's not a weakness. And it's needed and necessary, and I'm not loving for other people, you know, I'm loving for myself also, and like mostly myself, like because there's so much that I feel fulfilled by just being in this mode of being a loving person, you know, and I shouldn't let these situations take that away from me or to taint that experience of myself of being this kind of person.
Oh my god, can you say that again?
I don't even know what it is. I shouldn't let these kinds of experiences taint that for me, you know, this mode of being I'm a loving person, you know, because it's for me. I also have to remind myself it's for me. Like if I'm showing love to other people, of course, yeah, it's in benefit for the greater good of everybody else, and it's wonderful, but they can do with it what they will. Like I have no control over how people will respond to me showing love to them. They can either accept it and understand it and reciprocate it, or they can throw it away, and that's fine also, because we also shouldn't be loving to other people with like this, with the sole purpose of having the expectation that it's going to be shown back to us, because we have no control of that. We have no control, which is scary. But yeah, I really have to remind myself of this a lot, because I can feel myself like getting jaded, and then I get scared because I'm like, isn't that what started this in the whole in the first place? You know, like the other person, for instance, treating me badly, or like not like taking for granted the loving relationship that we have, is because they were feeling jaded. Like they weren't in the space to really be able to see it and feel it, or accept it, or trust it, and then it just became thrown away. Like it just became this thing. And there's a lot of grief in the whole experience of this, but I think I'm also learning how to grieve it, how to grieve it without shutting down my heart, basically, to other people.
Yes, I already told you this before, this thing of keeping your heart open.
Yeah.
And like, if it is also specifically if this is a little bit towards one type of human being, in this case a gender, but it could be also it could be other, like it could be towards colleagues, for example. Let's say you have this problem, this continuous thing, specifically within work relationships. So it could be any type of like group of people, you know.
It can be like a lot of people even have, like, for instance, racial like beliefs, like racism, because of this. You know,
this is where it's born, like from one specific experience. We categorize the whole, like a general group into it, and it's the biggest one I do think is in gender, like with men and women, because I've felt it. It's not even done on purpose. It's like, it's just that this trust starts being created, and as you mentioned already, it's the first relationships you have is like your mom and your dad, right? So those two people are gonna
set the tone.
Yeah,
they set the stage.
There's a word for it. Yeah, those two people are gonna set the framework of what's the relationship, and one of them is the female and one of them is the male. Not always, right? There's also male, female, but whoever, like as a child, whoever is the first person you have a relationship with, either of opposite gender or the same gender, it really sets the tone. So it's so important to check what are my relationships, what are the first relationships in my life that set the tone, and now maybe I don't trust women, or I don't trust men, or I don't trust any type of, I don't trust Italians, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
But and it's so important to keep your heart open, because when betrayal happens, let's say with our dads, like from that relationship, it's so easy, like that's where most of the trauma came, also, of like not feeling that you can trust this man, and then you translate it to your brain, okay, man cannot trust, and you go out and you meet some guy at the supermarket and you're like, I don't trust you.
That initial like feeling of distrust or betrayal from the primary like male representation in my life, my dad, you know, that was the first one. And then I noticed there's now this pattern of like my brain showing me, see, it's true, like you can't trust,
because that's
like,
what brains do.
It's sort of just waiting for it to be true. Like, so even when I'm with men who are like, oh, very nice and caring and stuff, the minute they're like not, my brain is like, you see, what did I tell you? You know, and then it adds on to this list of like, you see, all this proof to make this meaning that I've created fact, you know?
Yeah.
And granted, there are a lot of guys who in my life have been not so great. But I don't want to use that to create a whole meaning of guys are not great.
Yes. That's this is the biggest work, to be honest. If you're a girl who has experienced this from a young age, this is the biggest work. This is the healing part.
Yeah, especially living in the system of patriarchy and you know, and a lot of misogyny being thrown at you. Yeah. It's very hard.
Our brain works like that. Literally, it works like that. There's a belief, and then it's the confirmation bias. It's like you go out into the world, and the brain is constantly looking for proof to like say, yeah, your belief is true. To make the ego stronger, your identity stronger.
And it's so dangerous, and it sucks because, for instance, I think I even talked to you about now, and I'm talking to someone who's nice, like a really nice guy, very sweet. There's such a fear within my system. I'm like waiting. I'm like, stop it, you know? I'm even like defensive or something, like how dare you, you know, be this nice to me? Like how
something is off.
Something is off. Like, what's the catch? Like, there's like, are you trying to fuck with me right now? Like,
yeah. But you know why that comes also? Because there have been instances where, because it's important like it is important to give everyone the benefit of the doubt in the beginning. This is what we're saying, but it's important to not go into the world with your betrayal in your heart and then, you know, judge everyone out of that, because then you will not have any relation. You will think everyone is out to get you, right?
yes.
So it is important to have a little bit the benefit of the doubt, open mind, open heart. But that's dangerous also, because I don't know why, because of their own trauma. My experience with some guys has been that in the beginning it's all nice and oh my god, and then it switches.
It switches so dramatically.
And you don't even realize, like it switches dramatically, but you don't even realize how or when or what. You're just like, wait a minute, what? That's not how you were in the beginning. What happened here?
Where did it come from? Yeah. So then it adds more to this feeling of distrust because of the shock, you know, of remembering the shock of it and not wanting to experience that shock again, of feeling like I was not able to even predict this coming, you know? So it can come at any moment. So then I'm even walking on the streets like super defensive.
Yeah. So it's about finding this balance. It's about finding this balance between have your heart open, don't close off completely, don't go into defense mode all the time. Don't think every guy is like, or any other person like is like, okay, you're gonna fuck with me, like you're gonna fuck me up. But also at the same time, don't be completely like, no, that was just one. That was just 5 specific guys, and the rest are not like that. No, that was just 10 very specific. No. And it's like,
because then that would be a bit naive.
Yeah.
Actually, funny, I brought this up in therapy once to my therapist because we were having this discussion around me having this resistance towards men. And at that point, there was even like a fear, you know, I would have like a fear towards men, especially like groups of men, and I would just feel so bad about it, like because of coming from a background like back in Kenya, even just walking on the street I would be like catcalled all the time, to the point where my brain even got used to it and stuff, for instance. So it built up this sort of like fear and distrust that even when I'm now in Groningen and I never get catcalled ever, you know, I'm still having this fear. So I brought it up in therapy, and I would explain my whole history with this, telling him that I feel so shit, that I feel this fear. And then he'd be like, but actually, there's a reason it's there, right? You know, there's a reason. So you're beating yourself up for, you know, something logical that your brain is doing based on your experience. And to some degree, it's helpful, right? To have that awareness. It can be detrimental when it gets out of control, right? But you shouldn't throw away the part of it that is helpful for you to navigate this world. Because this world isn't always going to be all sunshine and rainbows, as we have all discovered in our adult years. that we thought, like back when I was a kid, I thought it was sunshine and rainbows, but then now I have a healthy awareness that actually no, I need to be aware that not everybody has the best intentions for me. Doesn't mean that I have to be like super like an asshole to people in preparation of this, but I should just be aware. Yeah, but there's a line that I have to navigate, and when more situations come up of me feeling like someone has hurt me, it makes the line much harder to navigate. Like, what do I do? Like, I don't know.
It's really hard. I think, this is what I was telling you, that it's with a level of like, to be able to, is that if you've never been hurt, disappointed, or betrayed, you have this naivety and you're very open, and that's not the best. But after a point when you're like disappointment after this, it's so hard to be compassionate and be open, and all these fears that we're saying. Like, the fear is there to protect you to a certain level, and you should allow it. But then there's this other aspect of, what about everyday interactions and being compassionate in those interactions, Because I've also had other friends tell me, like, stories that I saw it myself, that is like, you don't have compassion right now for this person, or for maybe more general men, let's say. And I understand why. I really understand why, because not only in personal relationships men can like with men I get disappointed or something like that, but also the world that we live in, it is still very patriarchal, and every day we see things happening to not myself but some other women, girls, and violence towards them, and so much abuse and misogyny and all these things. So it's really hard. It's crazy hard to still have compassion, but I personally think it's important to find that compassion somehow, somewhere, because that's the only way we can break this cycle. Because if we don't have compassion towards them, then we fight them, and then we minimize them, and then we go like, men suck, and men this and men that, and then they fight us because they don't have compassion either. They don't understand why we're so angry, why we're so done, why we're so like exhausted. They really don't understand, because they see us hating them, right? And they can't tap into their own compassion. So that is just a cycle of battle, basically.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
So how
you do this?
How?
Just how?
Tell me from your experience how, and I'll tell you from my experience
how I have compassion.
How you I even try? Yeah. How you even girl? How you even girl?
I don't even know. I think ask me on a different day. But today, when I'm triggered, this will be my answer. Maybe tomorrow I'll have a much more enlightened answer.
Today I don't even. No, there is no even
I
today.
don't know. Oh my god. Today it's, but it's important to talk about it when I'm in this mode, because I think it's hard for me to remember when I'm in a much more compassion, like objective viewing, and the emotion is cooled down. But this is actually the juice of it when I am feeling triggered. Like, how do I navigate all of that? Like, first of all, I have to start with having compassion for myself, girl. You always have to start with yourself. Like, the shit that I've been through, and I just have to like put like compassion and respect on myself, like, for even being able to navigate all of it, and empathy that I still have to navigate all of it, and just love for myself, like, yeah. And for other people, trying to understand where they're coming from, like I said before, not to make it okay, but just to understand, to give my mind some rest, because what my mind will do is it'll go on and why. Like in the past, when I didn't have that much I guess self-love, I would also blame myself a lot in a way to sort of control the situation. Like somehow I've created this, I've done this, I like perpetuated it, and just being like, no, like, you know, I have my role to play in my own way, maybe, because it takes two to be in this situation. But if I'm just being harmed, I'm just being harmed, and it has nothing to do with me and my worthiness or self-worth or whatever. It's just like, yeah, an unfortunate situation where this person is hurt and they're taking it out on me. And that's sad. Yeah.
Usually people who betray you, people who hurt you in any way, is because they themselves are hurt.
They're hurt. Every single person in my life who I reflect on, who this has happened with in some degree, with the awareness I have now, it's because they were going through a lot. They were hurting a lot, and they didn't know how to be in this space with me, and they took out some shit on me, you know, because they saw everybody else as the enemy. And I've had to work on making peace with that, because it's also not my fault. It's just a product of us living in this world together. But yeah, I don't have to hold on to it, you know, which is hard. Because there are moments where I'm like, oh, I've let it go. But then sometimes it still comes up. Like I told you, sometimes like triggers can come up, and I remember that time this person did this to me. Yeah, and yeah. Wow, it's so hard to answer this question when I'm triggered. It's like,
of
fuck.
Course. You just want to send the person to hell and be like, fuck you, man. Like,
truly,
go die. I don't
especially
care.
in the heat of the triggered feeling. Right now, as we're talking, it's kind of cooling down. But in the beginning of the conversation, like there's so much like rage in this whole thing.
That's exactly what.
Yeah.
How the other person was probably feeling when they went into their betraying actions. Like, not every scenario, but most of the time, or from my experience, maybe when people do something that hurts you is because they're so triggered, or they have this heightened emotion of either anger or sadness or pain, whatever, that they just, as you just said, like they take it out. So
yeah.
What was it? I don't know what my point was. I forgot. I really don't know what I was going to say. I had a point.
I think that was.
But anyway.
That was also.
But yeah, it's compassion. I understand that it has a lot to do with just really realizing that you're both in the shit. Like,
yeah.
Just that, for me personally, that click in my brain can bring a lot of compassion. Like we're both victims here, actually.
Yeah, we're both of us.
We're both victims.
There's no villain in this story.
Exactly. It's because, of course, people look like villains when they're the ones who are attacking you. But you have to think for a moment, why are they attacking me? Because they feel like a victim. They feel like they need to attack, you know? So this little click in the brain, we're both victims here, that can ease the tension. And then you can just, like, again, take the distance, do the thing. Don't just stay there and be like, oh, poor victim. Yeah, like, of course you betrayed me. Of course you hurt me. Like, go watch our episode. Danger. Yeah, go watch our episode on bad person or bad thing. Like that, we talk more about this there. Like, you just don't, you don't stay there like, oh, poor baby, poor victim. No. But yeah, that can click and that can break compassion. And you know what's something else that's very interesting? What drives me insane, my personal experience these days, is that I am being compassionate with boundaries of, okay, I understand where you're coming from. I know why you're acting like this. I don't agree with it. I don't want it. I am putting this boundary. Please don't talk to me. The other person doesn't see this as compassion, but they see it as you're not talking to you. Like, why are you doing this to me? Like, why are you doing? And I'm just like, are you shitting me?
Like,
I'm gonna kill you. Like, I took the time to calm myself down, to click the idea of, okay, we're both victims, be compassionate, even though you treated me like shit, you did something that I didn't like, you really like disrespected me. I come back to you, I give you my compassion with the boundary of like, I'm putting a stop here. And then their response is
to put you in the role of the villain. Oh my god, girl. They don't take accountability. They don't apologize. They blame you for how you respond to their disrespect. What the fuck?
What do you do then? That's a very interesting question. When you've given compassion, but that compassion is not being even accepted or seen as compassion, let's say. It's not seen as compassion. That's really interesting. When the person who betrayed you does not see that as compassion, but it sees it as either abandonment, rejection, I don't know, anything.
Yeah. Personally, that's when I say peace. That's before, because anything else from my side will just not help anything, because that's in the moment when that happens, the rage that accumulates in my body is so profound that I have to just be like, no. Because also, what's the point? Because then it's like, okay, then this person is determined to continue all of this and make you the villain, so what can you do? Especially if you've really put in this effort on your part to be compassionate and to communicate and whatever. There's nothing else you can do. Like you've in my opinion.
And I want to add another layer. The other layer could be that maybe in the beginning you weren't compassionate. Maybe, betrayal has happened. Maybe you've played your role as well. I don't know. Maybe you responded also with disrespect. Let's include all scenarios. You've also responded with disrespect. They were disrespectful. You were disrespectful. A moment later, 3 weeks later, you come back. You apologize and you're like, okay, I'm here to take ownership of my stuff. Also still be compassionate. I understand why you did it. I disagree with it. I don't like it. I'm putting a stop to this thing here. And still, that's what I'm trying to say is we're not always going to be collected and compassionate. And probably we will also burst out and say a thing or two. Like the person in front of you is doing it. Like you're going to do it too. But as long as you come back, and you're like, okay, like you will realize, you bring awareness and you bring this compassion.
Yeah.
And just leave it there and that's it.
Yeah. You do your part. You know, you can't control what the other person does, but you clear your plate.
Because there are some scenarios that, maybe from their experience, you were the one being disrespectful. And that's okay. You're not going to go and tell the other person, no, I wasn't, because that's their experience. Just like my experience, for example, is you are being disrespectful. We're not going to argue about our experiences. What we're going to argue about what are each other's boundaries, and then who is giving who compassion.
Yeah. Also, you should remember that it's not your responsibility to change people's mind about you. You know, if they have a fixed idea of who you are. And it's this putting you in that role of the villain. I think a lot of people have this then urge and need to like, no, but I'm not like this. I need them to see that I'm not like this. You know, like it's not true. And then having this back and forth, like, no, it's just, if somebody's made up their mind about you or perceives you in a certain way after you've shown this kind of compassion, it's not your responsibility to change people's perception of you in that way. That's
surreal to me. It is surreal to me when you clearly say to the person, hey, I understand. I'm not saying you're a horrible human being. I'm just saying that this is not okay. And still they turn around and they go like, why are you being like this? Or wow, you don't care about me and this. And it's like, why are you making so hard? It comes back to this. They're making it so hard for you to continue that compassion also. Because they keep bringing it back to you, you know? And this is something else. When people when someone who's betrayed you, was disappointed you, whatever, you go, okay, fine. You give them the compassion. You're like, I get it. Whatever boundary. They turn it around to you again. Like, you're just being like this, you're like this, you're like that. And then it's like, how can I continue being compassionate to you when all you're doing again is just pointing the finger and calling me names, let's say, you know?
Yeah, then it goes along with the thing, like, you can be compassionate from a distance, you know? And also, that's why it's so key in these moments to have, like, a strong sense of self, because then you might be reeled in by all of that stuff they're saying about you. Like, when you have, or you cultivate, or you have this practice of trying to cultivate a strong sense of self, you know who you are, and you know what your thoughts are and your feelings are, and blah, blah, blah. And somebody is now throwing that shit at you, there's sort of this like force field. At least that's how I try to imagine it. And it's just going pew, 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 pew. And all you're seeing instead is just this person like having a tantrum that has nothing to do with you. And you're just sort of there with them in this situation. But it doesn't like get in as deeply. I mean, sometimes it will, but just from the hurt that this person is not seeing you, because that sucks, you know, like when someone's not seeing you. But if you know who you are, then yeah, it is what it is.
One thing I will add is that even though it might be really hard having compassion for people who have betrayed you and hurt you, at the end of the day, it does free you to feel a little bit. I think it sets you free quite a lot.
To have compassion.
To have compassion, it humanizes both you, the other person, and it spreads the message of, okay, love. It's still about love.
It's still about love.
It's still about love, and those are the hardest moments.
Well, I also wanted to add, like everybody handles this stuff differently, right? But what I've realized recently, actually, these situations helped me actually have a better relationship with myself. After, you know, seeing how I could have go through a lot of betrayal and still be a loving person, you know, it's just such a natural part of myself, and be very proud of that, and to also be proud of the way that I've managed to get through every single time that's happened. Like, it sucks and it still stings, you know, today, but I've gotten through it. And I think sometimes what I could have done is to like let it add on to like feelings of maybe self-hate or hate towards this planet and people as a whole, which sometimes it did, but then overall I was like, no, like, I'm gonna use this to try and be more loving towards myself and other people, you know, because that's still loving me. That's still loving other people, is being loving towards myself, and knowing that I have no control over anybody else, which is scary, but I do have control over how I choose to be in relationship with myself and perceive myself and continue to support myself in being this cutie. But yeah, so my message for people is to just really try hard not to let it make you jaded, because that's what it tries to do, make you a jaded human being. But no, being a loving person is really wonderful, and it's special, and it's needed, especially in this time that we're living in. Please don't stop loving people. Please don't stop loving yourself. It's a beautiful part of your character and your life experience. Message from Auntie Jordi, Big Sister Jordi.
This is basically everything. Like, this is facing love, basically everything we just
Yeah. face that love. Even when people are being fucking annoying, like, face it.
I have another question. Do you think this compassion thing is actually forgiveness? This whole thing about being compassionate after betrayal?
I don't know, actually. That's a good question.
Because I was going to differentiate it. I was going to say that you don't have to forgive them, but you can be compassionate.
I think with you saying it like that, I think it's different. I think there's it's the same, but it's different. Because there are people who I have compassion for in this moment who have hurt me and are still continuing to try and poke at my shit. I have compassion for them. But I've not yet reached the point where I've forgiven them. Keep in mind, my camera just went off. It said change the battery pack, which is weird because I did. Like, I charged it. Just put a picture of me.
I'm just going to put a picture of you right here.
Yeah, I've not forgiven them yet. And I'm aware of that. And I'm having like allowing myself to be in that space of not forgiving them yet, because that's okay. And it'll happen when it happens, when I've like reached like a more I don't know, understanding point of view, and some time has passed. That's a natural thing that will happen. But for now, it's okay that I haven't forgiven them. But for sure, I can still extend compassion.
I totally agree with you. I think there is a difference. Yeah, because like the thing that you mentioned, it was because maybe they're continuing actually to disappoint me or hurt me in the moment.
Exactly.
I can still have compassion for that, but it doesn't mean that I'm forgiving it because you're continuing it. So there's nothing to forgive. You're still doing it. So I can't forgive something that you're in the moment doing and continuing to do. So yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. I'm a big believer, or I stand by the fact that forgiveness isn't something that you can force. You know, especially if you're still processing. Like, it's like the end point of an integration process of integrating everything that happened. And yeah, it'll happen when it's ready to happen, but that doesn't mean that I should have hate in my heart, you know, for somebody. Like, no, like I still want them to heal and get better, but I'm still pissed off at them. Shit. Yeah, this thing of loving someone but also being angry at them, like, yeah, like I'm pissed, but I still want them to.
I love you, but I'm pissed and no fucking talk to you. Bueno, sí. Yeah, it is what it is, kind of.
It is what it is.
We do as much as we can do, and
keep it stepping, keep it moving, you know? Face that love.
Face that love. Keep face that love.
Bye.
Bye. Me and Jordanka both are telling you bye.
Bye.